What's up, everybody? Shauna D Man here. Hope you guys are doing great and welcome back to the channel. Again, hope you guys are doing great. Hope you guys had yourselves a great weekend. We are back to finally talk about give my full thoughts on season 2 of Monarch: Legacy of Monsters, which wrapped up just over a little bit of a week and a half ago. And obviously I did week by week episode reviews of the series, and quite honestly I did enjoy it. I can see where people had issues with the show. I think a lot of people, when they think of Monarch or like Legendary, Godzilla, the Monsterverse, a lot of people want primarily to see giant monsters battling. So understandable. You got some of that towards the end of the season of season 2. But for those who did not watch season 2, quick little recap: season 2 of Monarch: Legacy of Monsters has some of the same people from the first season. You got Kate, Kentaro, Korra, um, Hiroshi, the father of Kentaro and Kate. They are attempting to, well, and Keiko. At the end of season 1, they're able to get out of Axis Mundi, but Lee Shaw, played by Kurt Russell, was left behind. Season 2 has the crew try to bring him back out of Axis Mundi, but in doing so, they release a brand new Titan, a Titan known as Titan X, which when the first trailer for this season 2 dropped, I was very interested in seeing. This is a brand new Titan, and that is something I want to give credit to Legendary and the people surrounding the Monsterverse and things like that, is their designs of unique monsters that are completely separate from Toho. If you look at, Methuselah, Behemoth, um, the Mutos and the 2014 Godzilla, even some of the Titans that we saw in the Kong series, like Skull Crawlers, the Warbats, and just all these unique Titans they definitely need credit for the type of designs that they get out of these creatures. They all are also so wonderful. And Titan X was just a beautiful Titan to look at, very menacing Titan. So Titan X escapes out of Axis Mundi, and it doesn't really go on a rampage. It is just primarily a Titan who was basically woken up a little too soon. I believe in the show it's like every 15, 20 years or something like that, Titan X wakes up, makes its way out of Axis Mundi, does its migratory route, and then goes back. Well, because of the team led by Kate, Kentaro, Gecko, Korra, because of them going and trying to rescue Lee Shaw, they ultimately accidentally unleash Titan X, who quickly leaves Skull Island with Kong hot on its tail, obviously making his getaway into the Pacific Ocean. Now, a lot of this series revolves around basically Monarch trying to find and figure out a way to get Titan X back to where it belongs, which is Axis Mundi. This also correlates with some of the flashbacks that we get of, much, I would say, younger Keiko, but a much younger Lee Shaw, played by Wyatt Russell, and then a much younger Bill Randa, because the flashback correlate what's going on in the season. This is still early in the Monarch. They're traveling. They travel to Soledad, which is supposedly home of a legendary creature or something like that. We come to learn Soledad is one of the many stops that Titan X takes on its migratory route. Um, and so Bill Bill Randa goes and he tries to map out the migratory route. And when we come to find out, yes, that is the case. Later on in the season, we learned that Titan X, the reason it was doing this route was because it was getting ready to basically lay an egg. and it needed to basically find its place to do so, which was on the beaches of Australia. So the plan is to try to get Titan X back into Axis Mundi, but they also have to contend with Apex Cybernetics, who obviously in the Monsterverse lore goes and creates Mecha Godzilla in Godzilla versus Kong a couple of years down the line, because season 2 takes place just not just it takes place before Godzilla King of the Monsters. And so there's still some things that I'm curious about, because we did get some like a cliffhanger or so about season 3 potentially, when we got to see Rodan at the end. Now, whether it is the Rodan that is from Godzilla King of the Monsters, or this is a different Rodan, we don't know. We're gonna have to wait till season 3 comes out before we find out. So that is one of the things in that regards. Uh, but most of the season is well, I guess you could say the majority of the season is very human based. What I mean by that is it is very centered on the humans, even though there are titans that we see: Godzilla, Kong, Titan X, and then some little unique titans here and there throughout the season. It is very focused on the human element, primarily Kate. Now, Kate is turns out to be a very important part in this season, but Kate is someone who obviously had the trauma of G-Day back in season 1, and basically is feeling the weight and responsibility for unleashing Titan X. Now, she did it out of good intention because she wanted to save Lee Shaw, but by saving Lee Shaw, she releases Titan X, which could trigger another G-Day event. But she comes to be a part of the story because we learn that she has this connection with Titan X, where I don't want to say telepathically, but there's like this connection between the two, because we see it several times throughout the season. One of the things that I was curious about on if it would involve Keiko, because what we saw with Keiko first is she would feel the vibration, she would like see the water ripple, like, but Lee or Bill, they didn't notice it. And the same thing happens with Keiko, or it was Kate later on, the K's and the C's. Good God. Kate later on, where she starts to notice just little things. She starts to hear sounds that nobody else is hearing. And so we learned that she is able to connect with Titan X. Um, and her and Keiko work together, and they're able to get a recording of the harmonic sounds that are coming from Titan X. And we come to learn that Titan X is not this savage Titan that everybody thinks it is. It's not a destroyer Titan. It is just lost, and we got to try to get it back home, back to where it belongs. And then even towards the end of the season, there's a moment in the episode where in Soledad, where Apex is setting a trap for Titan X so they could try to put like an implant in it to try to control it. Obviously, that goes wrong, but there's a moment where Kate and Titan X they're basically nearly close to one another, and they're just connected. So whenever Titan X, you know, started to go kind of haywire, Kate will feel that too. Now, ultimately, that situation ended up in Hiroshi being killed in that episode, which leads into Kentaro's arc in this story as well, because Kentaro, because it is wanting to, he basically teams up with Isabel Simmons, the daughter of Walter Simmons, who is the head of Apex, and part of his motivation was teaming up is the way Axis Mundi works is um because Lee's been trapped down there, Keiko's been trapped down there, and Hiroshi was trapped down there. Because time and space doesn't work the way we think it does there in Axis Mundi. What we may think is, let's say in real world time, a week has passed. But in, let's say, Axis Mundi, 6 months have passed. You see what I'm saying? Like the it's different. And so we kind of also get information about another part of this world of Axis Mundi in a later episode where Dr. Suzuki and Lee try to find a way to kind of summon Godzilla to come and fight Titan X. And by doing so, they go and find a a rift, and the rift locks onto a younger Lee Shaw when he was trapped in Axis Mundi, and you have a situation where the young Lee Shaw and the older Lee Shaw are communicating with each other. So again, time and space work differently here. So for Kentaro, what he wants to do is potentially use Axis Mundi as a time machine to go back in time and maybe save their dad or warn their dad about what's about to happen to prevent him being killed. But but we don't know the ramifications of that, because even in the final episode, episode 10 of the series of season 2, there is a situation where Lee tells Keiko that he was in Axis Mundi and he saw her, but he chose not to go to her because now the older Lee Shaw was telling him, if you go and save her now, you risk not saving her later. So there's no telling what would have happened if Lee went and saved her in that exact moment. The entire timeline potentially changes into a branched off universe or an alternate universe potentially. We don't know. Um, so that is something. So that's Kentaro's motivation. So he teams up with Isabel Simmons to go to Skull Island because they want to gain control of Skull Island, but they can't do that because Kong is there, and they got to get rid of him. Now, whether Isabel Simmons is trying to do it for profit is unknown, but I would assume so. She sounds like she is not on a. She doesn't like her father all that much. How much of that is true? Don't really know. Um, but ultimately, like what they're trying to do ultimately fails, thanks to Monarch, Kate, Keiko, Lee, Korra working together and able to get Titan X back to Axis Mundi. So that's generally the overall story. Now you have Lee as well, who feels probably guilty as well about everything that's happened. Um, Keiko, she is trying to adjust to this new world that she's in. Hiroshi, who is having some resentment to his mother, um, especially at the. All right, sorry about that. I don't know what happened there, and I glitched that quick little second. But um, so basically, it is, even though there are Titans in the series, it is very human driven. It's very character driven. Even though you don't like some of the characters, which is understandable, that is kind of like what the focus of this series or this season 2 was. Now, as far as the Titans go, again, I already talked about Titan X a good bit. Just how cool she looked, the design, I loved it. You don't you don't see a lot of Kong and Godzilla. Now they get some somewhat screen time. Kong kind of does. I feel like Kong gets maybe a little bit more than Godzilla because we do see him a couple of times throughout the earlier parts of the season. Godzilla, so Lee uses Dr. Suzuki's device to send out like a gamma radiation or just a radiation signal in general to lure Godzilla. And it works. We got to see Godzilla in broad daylight fighting Titan X on the shores of Australia. And then Godzilla chasing Titan X all the way to Skull Island. And whether Godzilla making sure Titan X got back to where it belongs, that's something to discuss in probably another video and things like that. And then as far as the Kong situation, Isabel Simmons' crew puts the neural implants on Titan X, and they have a fight. So, but ultimately, Titan X's mother instincts overpower the system, and she's able to kind of like reboot herself and is able to stop fighting long enough to show Kong what she was after. And once he realizes it, he kind of like backs off and lets Titan X be on her way and everything like that. So you don't get a whole lot of screen time for the Titans in general. You do see Titan X throughout the episode because she is a part of the story. But Godzilla Kong, I mean, it's meh. It is what it is. So it's gonna be curious to see on how episode or season 3 shapes out in regards to this show. I don't know if it's been confirmed or not for a season 3. Let me see. So right now they haven't officially announced a third season just yet. But it looks like they've had a strong viewership, so that's really really good. So more than likely, we are going to get a season 3, probably 2028, 2029, more than likely. But that is pretty good. I'll be very curious to see on what the numbers were for season 2, for sure. But overall, I like the season. This was one of those shows that I very much was excited to see week after week after week. And there's not a lot of shows that get me like that. Um, I talked about, Welcome to Derry, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. So there's shows like that that get you so invested and attached that you're very much excited to see each episode week after week after week. I felt that way with Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, even though it was some ups and downs here in some parts. I still overly enjoyed what I got out of the season. The Titan visuals, especially seeing Godzilla and Titan X fighting in broad daylight, how good they look is such a huge credit to the team that put in the work to make them look the way they did. Um, a shout out to character Tim in the show, who was pretty cool. And so I am very much excited to see where this goes heading into a potentially season 3 of Monarch Legacy of Monsters. But guys, that is basically it. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for watching. If you're new, hit that like and subscribe button, comment below. You can also find me on the Nerd Talk podcast on Spotify, the Shawnee D Main Gaming channel, Twitch, Kick, Rumble. You can find that all down in the description below. Thank you guys again for hanging out. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Y'all have a good one.